Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a radically different and, honestly, a completely fascinating approach to understanding one of the largest continuous human gatherings on the planet. We're decoding the ancient Hajj pilgrimage, but we're looking at it through a very specific, almost sci-fi lens. Think of it as a high-fidelity translation of a digital spiritual system reboot. So instead of just viewing it as a historical ritual, we're going to explore it as a masterfully engineered architectural project, one that is literally designed to completely overhaul the human operating system. To understand why a system reboot of this magnitude is even necessary, we really have to take a hard look at our default state. I want you to just think about your own modern exhaustion for a second. We walk around completely weighed down by biological overload. The sources describe this incredibly well as the heavy gravity of material reality. We're constantly downloading external noise, anxieties, societal pressures, worldly debts, until our mental RAM is just totally overwhelmed. And what does that do? It creates a severe spiritual static right in our human kernel. We become numb, lethargic, and entirely bound by this chaotic, neon-drenched daily world, completely losing touch with our actual higher purpose.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate destination of this reboot, the Kaaba. The texts conceptualize this as the sovereign central server. Picture it perfectly centered on a star-reflecting lake, totally encapsulated under a protective red geometric dome. It represents the absolute, undeniable focal point of unity. It's just sitting there, completely still, patiently waiting to receive a pure, uncorrupted connection from the user.
Now, the entire Abrahamic project is designed to take us from that corrupted material state, the one full of heavy gravity, nonstop mental static, and just a massively bloated human ego, and transition us into an optimized spiritual state. We are literally moving from a chaotic world of incredibly diverse, noisy, colored data into a state of pristine, minimalist purity. It's a state of profound, undeniable clarity, which the text actually refer to as the white light or the fitra.
But here's the thing. You can't just run a factory reset while the malware is still running in the background, right? Before initiating the physical hack of the Hajj, the system absolutely must bypass 4 massive mental idols that constantly keep humanity fractured. What's fascinating is how the sources identify these corrupted files. First, there's blind following, where we just abandon reason for wishful thinking. Then, nationalism, that dangerous my tribe right or wrong mindset. Third is habit, our stubborn refusal to step outside our comfortable little echo chambers. And finally, exploitation, where the masses are manipulated for wealth and power. These files keep the human ego so bloated that true synchronization is basically impossible.
So, let's see how this builds when millions of people actually show up to execute this reboot. Imagine the pilgrims arriving at the physical boundaries of the sacred territory. They arrive as incredibly diverse, colored pillars of light, different races, different tax brackets, completely different societal statuses. But right here at the gateways, they have to begin shedding those superficial data layers. They are actively preparing to initiate the physical hack, to bypass all those mental idols we just talked about. To even begin this process, we hit the very first core protocol, Ihram. Now, the sources define Ihram not just as an outfit you wear, but as a literal active state of sanctity. In our tech framework, Ihram is the absolute initiation firewall. It's the strict boundary condition that aggressively blocks out all external material distractions. It officially initiates the sovereign, secure communication protocol between the human kernel and the divine. Executing this Ihram protocol follows a highly specific, sequential algorithm. Step 1 is the intentional logon. You make the conscious, deliberate decision to disconnect from the worldly network. Step 2 is the physical shedding of worldly garments. You are literally taking off the clothes that broadcast your wealth or your status. You just leave it all behind. And step 3 is entering the white light state by putting on 2 simple, unstitched white sheets. This algorithm is incredibly powerful because it instantly kills the idol of the human ego by unplugging absolutely all racial, economic, and status-driven barriers.
The visual shift here is just absolutely staggering. You go from millions of distinct, divided, loud individuals to identical, featureless white light pillars. The pilgrims are completely stripped down to their most basic, fundamental shared human reality. Nobody is above anyone else. It's a beautifully engineered, egalitarian unity that physically manifests the concept of a single creator by entirely leveling the playing field of humanity.
Okay, so once you're inside this firewall, strict system constraints are immediately activated. The texts explicitly mandate a few things. No hunting or scaring off game, no shaving or cutting of your hair, and holding back from all intimate acts and quarreling.
Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand that these are not punishments. Not at all. They are strict constraints programmed directly into the divine code to protect the human kernel from crashing during the incredibly delicate process of this reboot.
Now, what's really interesting about this is if you visualize these forbidden acts as red holographic firewalls, perfectly enclosing and safeguarding each of the white light pillars. By temporarily suspending our base biological drives and our normal dominance over nature, like hunting or altering our physical appearance, we are totally protected from the material noise that usually corrupts our focus. The whole system is locked down and fully secured.
With the firewall active, the transmission officially begins. This is the protocol of the Talbiyah. It is an active transmission state, a continuous golden data signal where the pilgrim repeatedly chants Labbaik, which beautifully translates to, "Here I am." It is the constant rhythmic confirmation of the user's direct response to the divine invitation from Allah.
Just imagine the sheer scale of this. Millions of unified pillars, totally stripped of their worldly identity, constantly emitting this golden Talbiyah signal. This resonant frequency literally cuts through all the remaining earthly static, beaming directly to the Kaaba, the sovereign central server. It is the absolute ultimate expression of focused, collective spiritual bandwidth.
And what's truly mind-bending, and this really stood out in the sources, is how this massive synchronization is actually timed. It isn't triggered by a digital clock or some human calendar app. The sources reveal that the mandate is tied to the actual physical rotation of the celestial spheres. It is quite literally a cosmic trigger. The physical alignment of the universe, this specific star map featuring the Pleiades, the Big Dipper, Leo, Canopus, Sirius, and Aldebaran, literally opens the communication window for humanity to run this massive protocol.
When that cosmic window finally opens, completing these protocols acts as the ultimate calibration point. Through that constant remembrance and absolute firewall-protected submission, the user finally clears the cache of all that temporary, corrupted data that has been bogging their system down for years. You achieve total divine synchronization.
So what is the end goal of this entire exhausting process? It's returning the user to a state called the fitra. The texts define fitra as the first barzakh, which means an intermediary bridge. Think of it as our primordial attunement. It basically means that human consciousness is fundamentally, originally wired for complete harmony with existence and truth. It's the intended operational state, completely free from the heavy burden of inherited, unquestioned bloatware.
So, the crucial point here is this perfect balance. The system of Islam does not ask you to destroy your body to save your soul, but it also doesn't let the body completely dominate. It seeks a perfect 50-50 equilibrium, 50% physical rhythm, the biology, the standing, the walking in the heat, and 50% spiritual consciousness. Both the body and the spirit are operating together at their absolute highest levels without negating either one.
And that, right there, is the culmination of the Hajj protocol. When the scales are perfectly balanced, the system reset completely wipes the slate clean of all spiritual static. The mind is finally clear of the burdens of society, the ego is completely dismantled, and the human being is returned to that pure fitra. You're perfectly attuned to universal truth, ready to operate in the world not as a blind follower, but with just profound, crystal clarity.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty vital question to reflect on today. I want you to look at your own daily routine right now. Look at your own mental load, the exhaustion, the invisible chains, all those corrupted files you've accumulated just by existing in the modern world. With all that noise bouncing around in your head, is it time to clear your cache and run a factory reset on your own operating system? Think about that.